tripping on mushrooms at the same time. And fucking, I remember getting knocked over, trying to grab a guy off him and getting thrown into the fire backwards. I land in the bonfire. I'm like,
I remember that you guys off the fire because I was like, fuck, they're in the fire right now.
Yeah, like the last place you want to be.
The following program contains explicit material. If you are under 18 years old, please fuck off.
Welcome to Spinning Yarns. I'm your host, Joe Amaro, and I, for one, could have been dead many times over a long time ago. But for some reason, I'm still here. I've had a crazy life and met a ton of amazing people along the way who've inspired me. I'm going to invite some of these folks here to share some of their incredible and unbelievable stories with us. Who knows, we may even learn something along the way. There's way too much bullshit in this life. We need more real talk from real people. So sit back, chill out, and listen up, because we're spinning yarns.
Hi, I'm Joe motherfucking Amaro. Welcome back to Spinning Motherfucking Yarns. If these intros seem a little rushed, that's because they are. Because I really don't have any time to do anything. Don't want the show to suffer. Try to give it all the attention I possibly can, but it's few and far between that I have a minute of spare time. New tie for the three worst drivers on the road. Mercedes, BMW holding up their leads with the newcomer Tesla. Piece of shit driver in a Tesla. Good for you. You have a Tesla. I think there's a test you have to take to make sure you're a big enough asshole to drive one of those cars. And then, of course, there's the traditional arsehole in the pickup truck who's always there without fail. He's going to show up. Don't worry about him. Old truck nuts is holding up the rear. He's going to tailgate you. Make sure you're doing the speed that's appropriate for him. Yeah, I think we're burning out. Work is fucking insane, and I'm reaching critical mass with a burnout kind of situation right now. I can't really go into it into great detail. Maybe when it's all said and done, I'll be able to do a whole expose here on the show on what's happening and what happened. It's unbelievable. It's insane. So I've just been stressed, really stressed with work and doing my thing. Yeah, we're gonna talk to my friend Jenine Daubney on this episode, and she's amazing, inspirational story, survivor, just a real cool cat from way back. Yeah, she gets into, we talk a little bit about burnout. We talk about relapse, mental health. These kind of things come up, as they often do. If you're in a situation like that with your work, you got to just get out. You got to get out while you can. You really do. And your boss, all the bosses in the world. This goes out to all the bosses in the world. You guys can go fuck yourselves. You can save all the money on all the pizza parties for the next 50 years. And you can save all the money for the crappy gold-plated watches or the Pyrex microwave casserole dishes or whatever you give out after 20 years of service in your shithole business, company, corporation. And what you're going to do is you're going to put yourself on an airplane, right? You're going to buy yourself 2 tickets. Get one for your partner too, right? And you're going to go down to Costa Rica and you're going to go to a fancy resort there. And what they're going to do is they're going to give you organic food. You're going to relax. You're going to get a spa treatment. You're going to unwind. And then at the end of the first night, they're going to bring you into a room with 90 strangers and they're going to pump you full of ayahuasca. Right? And then you're going to cry and shit your pants. And then you're going to crawl back to your room after about 8 hours of intense cry shit therapy. And then the next day you're going to have And you're going to have an omelet bar. Yeah. And you're going to have some yogurt and mud bath. And then after a little walk on the beach, you're going to go back into a room with 90 strangers, and they're going to pump you full of ayahuasca, right? And you're going to bleed out of your ears, and you're gonna secrete poison from every pore in your body, as all the toxicities from your lies, your accumulated lifetime of lies, will escape your psyche and will escape from your body. Then you're gonna crawl back to your room and cry yourself to sleep. Then the third night, you're gonna do the same thing. There's going to be some more cry shit therapy and some more with the bleeding ears. You're gonna circle down into hell. You're gonna visit hell and experience what that's like firsthand. Then on the fourth night is movie night, and we're gonna watch Jacob's Ladder. Tim Robbins. It's good picture, war picture. And then when that's over, you're going to go back into the room with 90 strangers, and they're going to pump you full of really, really hardcore ayahuasca. And don't worry, all these are led by a local shaman, all your journeys. And he's going to bring you into a room, and you're going to partake in some intense CBT. Right, but it's not cognitive behavioral therapy. It's cock and ball torture. They're going to put your cock and balls in a cage and torture them, and you're going to cry and shit and bleed, and then you crawl back to your room, cry yourself to sleep. And in the morning, they're going to give you a breakfast burrito and a voucher for the gift shop, a free t-shirt, and put you on a WestJet flight back home, and you're going to come back to work and change your life, because you're going to realize you're a piece of shit. And well, welcome to the party. We've all known it for years. Better late than never. Yeah, that's what you're going to do.
There we go. How are you?
There we go. Hi. How are you?
I'm okay, honey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to England.
Bloody hell. Nice flat.
Fuck, man. It's a grown-up person house, isn't it?
It sure is. It's very, it's very mature. Yeah?
Yes.
Posh.
Very, very simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
The shitty thing, though, is like I've got concrete walls, so the house is like bare white walls. I literally can't put anything up. Like behind them, they're rock solid, so like there's nobody tapping nails into it to hang photos or anything. So here we are in my white walled room.
You just got to tag it up.
Yeah, probably not, but
No, it looks very nice, and you look great. Nice to see your face.
I know, I haven't seen you since Blood, right? It's right before I moved to England. Yeah. It was literally right before I moved to England. I saw you when you had your first night of Blood. So
that's right. Fuck, forever ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what the hell? Tell us where in the world you are. You're in England. Where in England are you?
So I'm in sunny Lancaster, the rainiest part of the whole country.
Okay.
Don't like the rain, but I learned that the hard way when I came here, and I was like, man, I used to live in London. Like, I remember there being more sunshine. And then I Googled it, and I'm like, fuck sakes, I literally live in the city that's the rainiest part in the whole country. So amazing, right?
Nice. Yeah. So is that depressing? You I know you love the sun. You're a sun worshiper. And
I am a sun baby, 100%. I think it's hard, you know what I mean, to wake up to gray skies every day. When you're a sun lover like me, it's hard to wake up to gray skies every day. But England is one of those kind of places, like the cost of living here is so much cheaper than Canada. So it's a place where I've come and I've been able to thrive, instead of survive like I was in Canada. So you got to take the good with the bad, I guess.
Yeah. I always thought it was funny. Like I love like Britcoms, right? Like all the like British TV shows growing up. And I always thought it was funny. Like there was always an episode in every one of them where they'd go to the beach, and like, you'd never think of the beach as part of like England at all, that they're having like a, you know, a holiday and they're down on the beach, and it's just like a shitty gray beach.
Dude, as soon as the clouds part and there's like a little bit of sun, everybody's like gone to the Asda to get barbecues, and they're like outside blow up pools. They're like, we're living the life, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
And their skin is so pasty white, like super, super white, like 2 seconds in the sun, they're sunburned.
Yeah. Fuck. So you've been there for like 4 years?
3.5 years.
Yeah. Wow. And what, so you must be, you're in the swing of it now, but it must have been a culture shock for you coming from here to there.
Well, I'm not sure if you knew, but like I got my citizenship in 2009 and moved over here like a crazy person with a 1-year-old and a 7-year-old. You know, I immigrated to a new country literally with a 1-year-old, and I was down in London the last time I was there, living in Brixton on Hayter Road. Shout out to SW2. And yeah, like this time I was just like, I can't be in London. You know, I just big city living. I just can't do it anymore. You know, I need the peace. So coming back this time, yeah, it's a culture shock. But I mean, my family's from England. We're, you know, immigrants. I'm first generation Canadian. So for me, this is my culture, you know,
Right.
and it was really important for me to bring my kids over here and expose them to that life that my family left behind, you know, when they immigrated over in the 60s. So I'm the only one in my family that actually got citizenship. Out of like 30 people in the family, I was the only one that decided to do it. It was, you know, that nomadic heart of mine, just wanting to keep wandering, right?
Amazing. So now you feel like very much at home. You're settled in there, and that's it.
I would say that I'm settled. You know what I mean? There's times that I kind of, you know, I hold it in a little bit. Hey, like I miss back home. I miss people. I miss familiar faces. And like, I don't usually think about it, but there's like, you know, the odd things that trigger those kind of memories. And then I get like teared up, you know, and I'm like, oh, I miss people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm here, and ultimately that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So.
And are you you're managing a restaurant, or are you cooking at a restaurant? What's going on?
So when I came over here, I actually took over as a manager of a restaurant called Capavino Bar and Restaurant. It was like ranked 80 out of like 130 restaurants. I brought it to number 3 under my management. Had a team of 20 people under me, curated the music, the food menus, the drink menus, brought my Canadian hospitality to the UK and smashed it, knocked it out of the park. And I just decided like it kind of got all too much, to be honest. You know what I mean? I hit burnout twice while running that bar. I think coming out of lockdown, you know, everybody being so cooped up, and then coming back and they're like free, and people like English people, they like to drink. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I kind of got a little consumed in that culture. And that might have been part of the downfall of like, you know, coming out of lockdown, everybody is like, okay, we're free now. Let's drink, let's get drunk, you know, and I probably partook a little bit too much. And then I kind of had one of those like, you know, epiphanies that I'm like, Jenine, been there, done that. Like, don't go down that road again, you know? So I decided that running the bar wasn't for me. I decided that I was going to go back to my love of chefing. You know, my first job I had when I got off the streets was a chef in a restaurant, you know, and I've been doing, it's a love-hate industry for me, hospitality. So I've been in and out of it for over 20 years now, you know. So right now I'm working at the #1 restaurant in town. Shout out to the people at QSF, Quite Simply French in Lancaster.
Excellent. It's funny that to me, because I don't know if you've been watching the show at all yet, but we like have just by chance made fun of like a lot of you know, English people and specifically the food. And so now we've got you on, and you're over there cooking for them, and I just think that's pretty funny. That's the irony is delicious, you know.
Very.
But what you're doing? What kind of food? What kind of restaurant is it?
So the first bar that I was running, I was doing like North American international food. Do you know what I mean? Saying like it was essentially international fusion food, because being from Toronto, it's so multicultural. So I think that like my influence with food has been so diverse with all the chefs I worked with over the years. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
over here, yeah, you're right. Like there's a lot of like pub culture, pub grub, stuff like that. So I did elevated bar food, if you will. And it was absolutely a hit. Like I said, I put us on the map, took us to number 3. We won 2 TripAdvisor awards back to back. It was cool, you know, it was one of those things that is like, okay, finally somebody's given me the chance to run the show. And you know what I mean? Bringing everything together, bartending, serving, you know what I mean? My management skills, my leadership abilities, bringing that together and just like making some magic. And in the process, I got to work with the job center. So I was able to take people from the job center who never have jobs before, or people that had immigrated here, didn't have references locally, and was able to work with them to give them employment ready skills and get them ready to go into employment in the UK. So it was a really cool space to kind of get to do things to help the community, you know?
That's incredible. And that worked out pretty good. Everybody was, you know, like well behaved.
I would say for the most part, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
Obviously hospitality. The thing about hospitality, like, and I'll get into it because I'm actually trying to transition out of it right now. And if my boss is listening, he knows. I let him know that I have an interview coming up, which I'm super stoked on. I just, you know, it's one of those things that like working in this industry, obviously, like you and I have known each other forever. You know what I mean? You as well as I have gone through addiction issues. And I feel like hospitality is so rampant with people struggling with addiction issues. And it's hard as somebody that's in recovery from drugs to try and separate myself from that. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I think your body and your mind are under such stress constantly, like physical and mental stress all the time. And it's hard to shut down from that after work every day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like that is really challenging. And you know, another thing for me too was like this whole like, do I want to work in a bar where I'm facilitating, you know, people's consumption of alcohol every day? So it was one of those things for me that I'm like, you know, morally, am I doing the right thing?
Right. Yeah, that's going to be running in the background all the time. And then, yeah, if you do, like the service industry is notorious for like Coke to keep you up for the rush and you know, and the down to mellow you out when to put you down for the next round. Right. So that's going to be a temptation all the time. So what's the transition? Like, is something completely different?
Got my fingers crossed here, Jojo. So I started looking because I knew that this wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. You know, for me, hospitality's always been a survival job, and I will advocate for that kind of industry for people that don't have skills, that are underemployable, that, you know, have come from maybe harder backgrounds. If you show up to work, you know, sober, clean, ready and willing to work, most people will give you a chance in a kitchen. And, you know, me coming from the streets, that's essentially was the starting premise for me of getting employment, was like somebody was willing to give me a chance. And I, you know, coming from having a grandma who was passionate about cooking for her big family, it was always, you know, that was always kind of my inspiration for wanting to cook. So getting into the industry, I just found that, like, you know, having that job as a survival job, because it's been so challenging now, I'm like, I'm 41. I can't do this for the long-term future. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for the skills that it's taught me, but ultimately I want to do jobs where I'm helping people. Like, I went to school to study mental health and addictions counseling, and I've worked in different capacities over the years in different support roles. And I feel like if I'm not doing something to help out, I feel like I'm unfulfilled. And that, you know, and when I become unfulfilled, that's when my addiction issues start to come out as well, right? And recognizing that, self-reflecting and being self-aware, I've realized that I need to go back into helping people.
Amazing. Yeah, you'd be perfect for that. Yeah. See, I work in addictions, and I work with like my whole work experience has been with like adult homelessness, right? And the burnout is big in that field too, because you, especially at the adult level, because it's like, you know, the chronic homeless. And I've often especially lately, been thinking about youth. Like that's where you get them, you know, like if you could intervene at that level. If someone like you coming in when they're young could plant those seeds and just give a shit about them just enough to make the difference, opposed to when they're all grown and it's, you know, I mean, the best you can do. Yeah. The best you can do when they're lifers is, you know, share a couple good laughs with them. And then, you know, like so many of my clients just, you know, they just die, right? Because they're just fucking at the end of like a career of homelessness, right? But I think you'd be amazing at that, and that's what ultimately I would like to land in that too. Like I could see myself at like at exactly that same position, like maybe like a group home or somewhere where I could be that guy that's like, you know, giving a shit, you know, and like letting them know like, no, like you're worth it, right? Where they could, when they're coming to that fork in the road, right, and make the difference that maybe prevents them from ever going down that road where ultimately it just ends in, you know, fucking, you know, suffering and death, right? That's awesome. You would kill that. You would be amazing. I could really see you shining your bright light on all those lives. I hope you get that position, and if you don't get that one, you know, there'll be another one down the road.
Jojo, it's not happening. Like 100% it's happening. I've manifested that shit. It's already happened in the future. So I'm just waiting for the interview. It's actually, I just got the information and like the link to the Teams meeting. It's a 2-hour meeting. So it's panel interview with the managers. And then to add on another layer, which is going to be interesting, I'm going to have a panel interview with youth who have accessed services in the past through that organization. So they will be interviewing me. So it's a 2-hour long interview. Going to be tense, but you know, maybe this is my warm up.
Yeah, no, you're going to be fine because you're bright and intelligent, and you've got the training, you know, like the academics behind you, but you're also coming with all your lived experience, so you're cool, and you know, like that is what they can't teach. So that's what's going to make all the difference for you. They're going to be like, this woman is amazing. You're a survivor. So you're just you being there offers hope, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I've actually got my toes wet recently too. So my name got put forward there was a grant funding put through Lancaster County Council through the YMCA, and they were looking for somebody to facilitate a program teaching youth how to cook, like essentially. So I went and I applied for this job because my name got put forward, you know, and all the candidates, I was the one that got hired. So right now I'm working 6 days a week. I'm doing 4 days full-time at Quite Simply French. And then I'm doing 2 nights a week at the YMCA, teaching kids from age 11 to 15 how to cook, giving them a space to be kids, to interact with each other and just have fun, learn a new skill. So it's kind of got my toes wet and getting back into that helping profession. And I think that's been the catalyst for me to now look for other kind of work, you know.
Incredible.
And ultimately, the day it's, you know, life's about helping each other. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I love that. I love that for you. Whole new chapter, right? I love it. Yeah, because I met you, I don't know when, in the 90s, like at the at the end of the 90s, right? And you were homeless then, I believe, passing through, broken, hungry, anything helps, right?
Yeah, you knows it.
Yeah, and then like you traveled a lot homeless, right? Like you did some train hopping and hitchhiking and.
I did, yeah. So 6 years out on the road, like I never stayed in one city. Do you know what I mean? Like I always was passing through, going to the next spot. For me, I think like my love of traveling came from having a family that immigrated to another country, and this nostalgia of them always talking about, you know, the place that they were from. And like I always had this like, you know, romanticism about like other places and other times, you know, and all the storytelling that came along with the stories from back home. And, you know, traveling and being on the road, it's like those stories, as we know, get created. You know what I'm saying? And like, for me, I fell in love with traveling when I was young. I used to cross the border every 6 months with my family and go down to Florida, and we do road trips. And I think that that's kind of where my love of traveling really started. And then, obviously, like, I think I met you. Well, I met your brother. He was 14 and I was 15. So that's going back to time. It's going back a long time. And yeah, like I know you guys were in Toronto a lot, and like I was in and out of that city, like living in Vancouver and Montreal. I was in the States for 2 years, I just kept moving. I think that's the thing that kept me alive, to be honest, show, was keep going. Do you know what I'm saying? Not staying and getting stuck in the same spot and all the layers that kind of build up when you're stuck in one place,
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know what they say, Rolling Stones are better than the Beatles. So
Ooh, I know about that. I love both, Joe.
yeah.
I did the whole Beatles tour in Liverpool recently and got All You Need Is Love tattooed on my arm.
Did you?
Yeah.
Excellent. I always joke that my favorite Beatle is Mark David Chapman, but that's a horrible joke. I know. I like some Beatles.
Guy.
He's the guy he's the guy that shot Lennon.
Oh shit. Okay.
I know.
I'm not a true fan.
Yeah. Yeah, they got some tunes. I think they're overrated. Like I don't, it's like holy shit, like that. Like people are just crazy about it, but I like some of it, I like I don't know. I guess. I think I like the Stones better. I'm more of a Stones guy, I think. I think that's what maybe, I don't know. I like LSD and heroin, so I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle,
I'll get you choose when there's both.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. Drugs though, like we were into drugs back then. Like we watched a lot of people fucking die, and it's a miracle that we survived, And you were with my brother for a while. You guys were together.
Yeah.
And do you remember? Sorry?
I said we spent a few years together, yeah.
Yeah. And at one point we got sick of Toronto, and we decided we were going to live like in Owen Sound to be near our mom, And you
got the story wrong. I got arrested in Toronto and got red zoned from Toronto. I got arrested for possession and wasn't allowed to be in the city, so I had to leave. And Hal was like, "Don't worry, I'll take you to my mom's house."
To Owen Sound, which is like, I mean, it like it's the Twilight Zone, right?
Middle of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I ended up moving up there with the girl I was with at the time, and we both had apartments in the same building, right?
Yeah, did.
And you know where I'm going with this story, right?
Oh my God, Joe.
Yeah.
You caught me off guard during your rendition of Blood and telling this story.
So what do you tell it? Maybe.
Oh, you're telling it. Go on.
Well, all I remember is you guys had this friend in the town. I think her name was Tracy. Yeah. Yeah. And she's like invited you to a bush party, like up on the rock cut. And so you guys are like, to me and the girl I was with, like, come to this party. It's our friend. Everything's cool. And we were skeptical from the beginning because the locals and I did not want to go.
I remember. I'm like, fuck it, Twitch, let's go. It'll be fun. Come on, let loose a little, right?
Yeah, but I'm thinking, and I'm all about that. That sounds great. That part sounds great. But I'm thinking Owen Sound, Hicks, rock cut, alcohol. This is a bad recipe.
Faster.
Yeah. And then sure enough, I think we ate a bunch of mushrooms for some reason, just to be for safety, And then these guys, just like I predicted, started freaking out. Maybe I manifested it, like you spoke of.
You probably did.
Maybe, but they freaked out and started throwing glass. And my brother Hal, he was passed out early, as he often was. He had a couple beers and was like, out, passed out. And this girl Tracy's friends start freaking out and throwing bottles at the rock and freaking out and calling her all these names, and they just turned on her. And we were like, whoa, we got to get the fuck out of here. This is ugly.
It was her friend that accused her of stealing his beer.
Yeah, some shit like that. And then they get into all these horrible names, and it was like, whoa, let's get the fuck out of here. We're trying to get her to come with us. And they're throwing bottles, and the glass is just showering over us. Like Hal was sleeping like at the bottom of this rock, and all this glass is just raining on us, and it was like broken glass everywhere. So we're trying to wake him up to get him out of there. He wakes up and sees what's going on, just sees this hick standing there, just screaming at Tracy, calling her every dirty word and every horrible name. And he's like, what the fuck is this? And
we know how, he'll fucking drive a friend to the bitter end.
For sure. So he's right into, intervention mode. He's gotta stop it, right? It was like, well, no, we got to get the hell out of here. So then these guys end up jumping him. He's a big lad, right? So people didn't really like to fight him one-on-one too much, right? So all these fucking hayseeds jump him, and it was fast, and there was a bunch of them. And then we're trying to rip them off of them, and it's like this bonfire burning, and tripping on mushrooms at the same time. And fucking, I remember getting knocked over, trying to grab a guy off him and getting thrown into the fire backwards. I land in the bonfire. I'm like,
I remember that. You guys off the fire because I was like, fuck, they were in the fire right now.
Yeah, like the last place you want to be. And then I remember getting knocked over in the scuffle, and I look over, and I just seen Harry's legs just sticking out of this dog pile of dudes that are just boot fucking him, and it's just his legs, and I saw his face in there, and he was like out, and they were just beating him to shit. So I go to jump in, get knocked over, I fall back, and my hand just falls into a pile of broken glass. And I still have nerve damage in my hand to this day. I can't even shake someone's hand without the nerves going right up to my elbow, right? But I just fucking grabbed the handful of glass and just grabbed the guy off him. And as a result, the guy was severely injured. But he got off him. And we got...
But not severely injured. You fucking juked him in his jugular vein. Like, not on purpose.
No, that's...
I don't... malicious intent. It was
Nope.
after result of it happening.
The glass was
I remember
out of my hand, and as a result, it was completely contextual. As it happened, like I said, he did get his face and throat and head, chest, and neck area very severely severed.
I remember dudes standing up because I was a bystander in this. I was like trying to break it up at points and like getting you guys off the fire, and it was pure chaos, literally pure chaos. I remember dude's name. His name was Todd. Don't know his last name. Don't give a fuck.
Yeah, we're not gonna give him a shout out here today.
He fucking was wearing this white shirt, and I remember after all the scuffle had happened, he stood up and he started screaming, "You're fucking dead!" And I look at him, and he has fucking blood shooting out of his jugular. Like, no joke, literally shooting out of his jugular, starts soaking his white shirt. As he starts screaming, he fucking falls down, and I'm like, oh my God, we need to get out of here. And then to add another layer onto the story, we fucking pull up at that party, I don't know if you remember, in a 5-star minivan that was fucking stolen. And then we were fucking leaving in a stolen minivan with fucking blood all in this goddamn minivan. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that kid there's that nerdy dude had a stolen van. Yeah, that was fucked up. I remember the fire turned green and shot up like 2 feet in the air, and it was like, holy fuck. And then I saw the blood and was like, this is crazy. Harold had a piece of beer bottle glass sticking out of his eye, and I just looked at it and I shouldn't have done it because you're not supposed to do that, but I just plucked it out of his eye. And fuck, he just started crying blood, and we just fucking got out of there. My hand was all fucked up. That kid was all fucked up. And then we just held up in the apartment because we were just like, that was a horrifying, traumatic experience, right? Like,
no, we didn't sleep because we're like, God, is the door going to be kicked down? Like, are we going to get raided right now for somebody? Is dude dead?
It was fucking crazy. So we were in there all freaked out. And then I had my hand all wrapped up. And then by the time it was like first light, nobody had come to kill us yet. So we're like, well, I got to get to the hospital. And we drive up the hill, and we're at the light waiting to turn at the hospital. And the kid from the party crosses the street in front of the car. It was just like Pulp Fiction. Like, he's at the crosswalk and he's all bandaged all up, and he stops and looks in the car, and I just waved at him with my bandaged hand.
No.
Yeah. And he went by, and then we went to the hospital, and they're like, and they were like, what happened? Right? I was like, oh, I fell on a bottle. We were partying, and I just fell and broke it on a bottle on the patio. And they're like, oh, well, that's interesting, because there was a young man in here just this morning who had some injuries that, on his face and neck that matched this pretty good. And I was just like, it's It's a crazy world. That's crazy. You know? Wow. What a coinky dink. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking mental. And then, so then I get stitched up. Like I said, my hand's been fucked ever since. Like I have no feeling in this whole finger. I can put a cigarette out on this finger. There's no feeling in it. It's just fucked, right? Because they weren't able to reconnect the nerves. I'd have to go to like a specialist, and it was like, no, just get me the fuck out of here. But then you were going to school there. You guys were young, and you were going to the high school there.
I was 17, trying to be a good girl. I was trying to get my grade 10.
Yeah. And then we get a call, and you're like trapped in a phone booth up at the high school, and like everybody like, you know, like pointed you out as being involved in this whole thing, and they were gonna mob you. And you were
Get ready to jump me, Twitch.
Yeah, I know.
I remember we all talked about it, and I was like, no, I have to go to school. I need to see if this guy's dead, because I remember I didn't know that you'd already saw him. I thought dude was dead. I'm like, I've got to go and see if this motherfucker has died, and like what's gonna happen, because we're ready to like pack our shit and go, right? And then I end up rocking up to school, and I'm out in the smoking section for a cigarette, like at lunch break or whatever. And then somebody mentions that it's me who was dating dude that was fighting, like Hal and you. And then fucking it literally, I had like crowds of people around me. And like when shit went down was like somebody started reciting my address to me. And I'm like, okay, I called you guys, and I was like, they know where we fucking live. Like, we need to go. You guys came. I'm there fucking literally back up against a brick wall. I remember I brought a knife with me because I was fucking worried. You know what I'm saying? That like shit was going to go, and like all these people accosting me at once. And like, thank God I came out unscathed. I didn't get hurt, and I didn't have to use the knife, but I called you guys, and like, you guys fucked up in like minutes. You were there, like ready to throw down.
Yeah, and we fucking came and got you and basically drove through the crowd in the car to get you in the car. And we went home right from there and moved. We packed and moved out of that town. Like, we left because then they were on our lawn. There was like 20 people on our lawn, and it was like, now this shit's going down. And I don't care who hears this, because fuck all those guys. That was their fault. They started with Tracy. They started with Hal, and they fucking started with me.
At the end of the day, like, people fight, but like going into a fight with integrity, like we did, sticking up for our friends. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's, we didn't go in and fucking cause a ruckus for no reason. It wasn't like we were kicking off and fucking slitting people's jugular veins for no reason. Like, that was an accident.
Yeah, it was pure self-defense. They started all that, and we were fighting for our lives. Like, that's why it was so intense, because it was like a life or death situation. Those guys weren't going to stop. They were, hey?
It's so sorry to interrupt, but what's so crazy about this, Switch, is like, think about it. All those years ago, these were just the happenings of our like day-to-day life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a lot of crazy shit, but that was a big one.
That was a big one. To add insult to injury, to like add another layer fucking crazy. We were high on mushrooms when that happened.
Yeah, I know. It's every time I do mushrooms that happens. No.
Like my hand, it's fucked up.
No, but like, definitely we open up the cosmos, and the weirdness just beams in direct. But that was one of definitely the most craziest moments of my entire life, and you were there for that. And it was fucked up, and fuck those guys. I remember we left, but my mom still lives out there, so we'd go there. We'd still go there, and we'd go into the town, and you'd see these clowns, and they didn't even know who we were. It's like, you guys were prepared to kill us, and you don't even know what we look like. Like, you guys are fucked. So I never felt bad. Like, he lived and whatever, right?
He did live. Because we could have got caught for a case and gone to fucking jail for that. So thank fuck that dude lived.
Yeah, I hope he he lived long enough to get his shit together and not be a fucking asshole. Whatever. Fuck him anyway. That was crazy. And then right away, I think is that when Hal fucked off and went and did Dead End right after that?
So that happened. I remember living in Owen Sound. Yeah, sorry, I was gonna go off on a tangent about something else, but that was before that fight happened. Yeah, so we left and went back to Toronto. I'm pretty sure I'd finished my probation when I was in Owen Sound. Do you know what I mean? Because I thought, you know what, got arrested, fucking got red zone from Toronto. For people that don't know what red zone means, it's like a condition that they slap on you. That means that if you get caught within your when in the time that you've been arrested and like while you're waiting to go to court, if you're caught within like the city limits where they ban you from, you automatically go to jail. So that's how we ended up in Owen Sound, Hal and I anyways. So then we end up back in Toronto, and like, you know, your brother and I had like lots of bright ideas. We're like, yeah, let's start selling PCP. So we, you know, go to Montreal and pick up PCP and bring it back to Toronto and, you know, just get involved in stupid shit, right? And then we ended up in this house, Old Man Dan. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Linsmore and Danforth. Do you remember that house?
This is where he's getting his penis tattooed in this.
Yeah, that your brother got his penis tattooed at this house by Jim.
That was a fucked up
God.
party too. It was like, no,
Dude,
no.
I actually forgot that your brother got the flames off of goddamn Snapple iced tea bottle. They're limited edition with fucking flames, and he got the flames from Snapple iced tea bottle tattooed on his fucking dick.
Yeah, twice, like both sides. Yeah, everybody. Oh man, yeah, that place was fucking nuts. But then it was shortly after that he gets picked up on the road, Penn, and gets involved in this movie they're making called Dead End, right?
Yeah, so if we want to be like explicit, him and I had been up smoking crack all night with Old Man Dan because that's just what we did back in those days, you know, being crazy kids.
It was the style at the time.
It was the style at the time, you know. I don't smoke crack now, but you know, I might have enjoyed it once or twice in my lifetime. But back then, you know, we lived in a house with this old gay dude who was basically my sugar daddy. He'd gotten a $500,000 inheritance and had never done drugs in his life. And I never turned him on to the drugs. He'd already found drugs before we ended up moving into this house, you know. And he just loved me. For some reason, he loved me. So when he'd go score an 8-ball, he'd buy one for me too. Do you know what I mean? So me and your brother always had some fun times. You know what I'm saying? And it was on Old Man Den. It was cool. You know, when you're 19, that shit's cool, I guess, if you're into that. Hopefully my son who's approaching 19 in a couple years isn't into that, but you know, whatever. Crack is whack. Crack kills. Don't do crack, kids.
No.
Anyway, so we'd been up all night, and I remember going downtown because we were selling dime bags of weed because, you know, again, that's what you did just to make your money. And we had our 2 dogs, our Jack Russells, out with us. We were walking in the street. We were down at College in Bathurst, actually. And this lady named Sophie, this just cute little chubby blonde lady, came up to us and she was like, hey, we're casting for this movie. This is the role that we're looking for. You look like you might fit the bill to your brother. So obviously there's like, you know, a little caption on what they're looking for. And when she read it out, I was like, holy fuck, Hal. I was like, that is you. This is you. You're doing this movie, right? And he'd gone through all these casting calls and he was like, I'm not doing it. And I was like, you're doing this for us because I wanted to be a part of it. I thought it was so cool that I was like, I forced him. I was like, you are doing this for us. Go to those fucking casting calls. And he made it through every single round of casting and then finally got cast as the lead role. Yeah.
Yeah, Dead End. Fucking wild. You can't write this shit. Norse is an overdose prevention hotline for Canadians, providing loving, confidential, non-judgmental support for you whenever and wherever you use drugs. Call or text, in Canada only, at 1-888-688-NORSE. That's 1-888-688-6677. In the U.S., you can call Never Use Alone at 1-800-484-3731. Or use Brave Technology Co-op's mobile app globally, the Brave app. Call Norse before you use drugs to connect with people who want to help you stay safe. No judgment, just love. There we go. Okay.
Hello again.
Hello again. Hello, love.
Hello, love. All right.
All right,
Everybody's
Jenine.
like, oh, give me exactly. You just sounded Australian. Everybody's like, do your English accent for me. And I fucking sound Australian every time. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, accents are tricky, and you don't want to be offensive, you know. Like,
You know what though?
huh.
My 14-year-old son, who had a hardcore Canadian accent, obviously grew up there most of his life, came over here. He sounds like a proper northern lad. When you hear this child talk now, sounds like he's grown up here his whole life. And people are like, so how long have you lived here? And he's like, 3 years, with his English accent, his deep voice, you know. And my
Yeah.
daughter just said the other day, she's like, Mom, she goes, it's going to be weird when we go back to Canada. She's like, it's going to be you and me, and then my brother with his Northern English accent.
This bloke.
Right?
Yeah. Oh man.
All right, Mom.
All right, Mom. Fucking yeah. You mentioned so you guys. Okay, we're talking about the movie. You guys went off to do deadend.com. And then I remember that started. And then I ended up in Peterborough. And you mentioned the Jack Russells. So Maddie and Jazz and my Maybelline.
Tell me about them, because we were just talking about those babies today.
Yeah, man. I
Literally.
had Maybelline for 16 years. She barked at me for 16 years. And then she got really ill and she was just started to fall apart. I had to put her down. I took her for a burger and we went to the beach and then I went and put her down, and they had to give her 3 times the dose for the size of her to put her down. They were like, whoa, like they were.
She was a fucking spitfire.
Yeah, she wasn't having it.
She was Maddie's baby.
Yeah, that's wild. And that same girl that I live with in Owen Sound, when you and Hal were in Owen, when we were all there together, I ended up in Peterborough with her while you guys were off filming this movie. And then more drugs, coke and heroin and just bad addictions. And then that girl ended up, I went to rehab and she ended up not going to rehab, but instead decided she would just like fuck all my friends and steal my dog. Right. So and then that's how I ended up in jail one time. Because we went and took the dog back. I showed up and the policeman was like, they called the police. And the policeman went up and then he came back and he's like, even if I could give her to you, I wouldn't, because she's nursing puppies. I was like, fuck.
Oh, they got her pregnant?
And they were selling the puppies for drugs too, right? So
No.
I told the cop, I said, okay, I'll be back in 8 weeks. And he was like, oh, what?
The day.
I was like, yeah, I'll give her time to nurse the puppies and I'll be back. And he's like, I wouldn't do that. I was like, what would you suggest I do, officer? He's like, well, you have to go to small claims court. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. So we went back 8 weeks later to the day, knocked on the door, got Maybelline, and then one of her puppies ran out and was looking at me and I was like, put the puppy in your pocket. Mine. Put the puppy in the pocket.
Yeah. You didn't know?
No, I didn't. Hal was there with me, and then an Uncle Reggie was there. And they're like, let's go. So we leave, and we run down, jump in Reggie's truck. I got Beaner. We're just like, I'm just crying. She's like licking my face. Yeah. We're like, oh.
Because you were a dog dad. You were a dog dad. That was your dog. That was my dog.
No, I know. And when he said, like, he even told her, like, when you break up, not if, but when you break up with my brother, that's his dog. That was the understanding. And it was. They knew it. They all knew it. But then her boyfriend and all his friends come running down the fire escape with their shirts off, and they're standing in the alley. And so we're me and Harry and Uncle Reggie smile and jump back into the truck. And
you're like,
we're like, what's up, boys? And then his friends were kind of like, we don't really want to fuck with these guys. And then Harry was just like, what are you guys all doing up there with your shirts off? You know, they were. Then they left. They didn't want to fuck with us, but they called the police and told them that we kicked their door down, tied them up with an extension cord, and beat them.
Oh my!
And to steal the dog. Well, I read the affidavit. It was all lies and bullshit. But consequently, I ended up in jail. But everybody loved me in jail when they found out why I was in jail, because they were like, you could have the dog still? You could give the dog back and just get out of here?
You saved your dog?
Yes. I was like, yeah, well, I'm not. It's my dog, man. And they were like, whoa, respect. You know, this is the dog guy. Hey, yo, this is the dog guy I was telling you about.
The dog guy.
He's playing cards, you know. Hey, how's it going? The dog guy. And then, yeah, of course, I had her till the day she died, and she was my girl. And her ashes are upstairs on the shelf with everyone else's. And Yeah.
Is your brother ashes up there too?
Yeah, I have his whole urn is here. My mom wanted me to keep him here, so he's upstairs. Nice owl statuette that was my grandmother's, and he's up there. And he's, I got him mixed in the ink for my tattoo as well, so he's in me, and he's everywhere.
Which
Yeah.
with heavy heart, just hearing you say that, hey, because your brother, he was such an integral part of my life over the course of my lifetime, and when he passed away, I was living in Mexico. And when I found out that he'd passed away, and for me not to be there with my people to mourn such a heavy loss was really, really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's around this time, is it not? He passed away in April, didn't he?
Yeah, it's right around this time. And yeah, it's been wild. Like, you don't it changes everything, right? Like, I'm still navigating that grief still. Like, it's still who I am. It really, really fucking changed me for sure. And yeah, we had a massive party here at the house when my mom was feeling better, and had a big celebration of life party, and it was epic. And my aunt was like, "Wow, I hope you have a party like this for me when I die." And it was like, oh, you'll never have a party like this.
My question is, did you read the words that I sent to you?
Of course I did. Of course I did. Of course you were there. He was there. It was a great party. It was excellent.
No doubt.
But that's where we got the Jack Russells, because I had his dog Maddie's puppy Maybelline, but we got Maddie from you. Got it?
Yeah, it was my dad, actually. So I had met my dad for the first time when I was I think I was 17 or 18. I meet Bud Colburn from Newfoundland, tattooed head to toe, right? Fucking badass dad. Like, if you ever could pick a dad, that'd be the dad that you'd want. The only problem, my dad suffers from schizophrenia, so he hasn't been able to be a part of my life, But when I met him, I'm like, holy shit, this is why I am like I am, Yeah, like, he had hitchhiked across Canada when he was 15, just like we just had so many connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had this Jack Russell, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this Jack Russell. I was like, this is my boyfriend's favorite dog. My boyfriend, who's this big burly tattooed dude, and his favorite dog's little old Jack Russells. I didn't know anything about the breed. And then I come to learn that Jack Russells are, they're terriers. They're in the same family as pit bulls, man. They are feisty little spitfires, aren't they?
Yeah, Jack Russell terrorists.
Yeah, exactly. So my dad, when he heard that, when I was leaving to go back, to go see Hal, because we were separated at Christmas, I was visiting my dad, my family. He was like, listen, bring this dog home, give it to your boyfriend for Christmas. He goes, and then he made and I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, because he bred dogs. You know what I mean? He was a dog trainer. He's like an award-winning dog trainer all across Canada. He always is with animals. So he had this dog, and he was like, give this to your boyfriend since it's his favorite dog. And I remember literally minutes before I left, he's like, and if this dog has puppies, you make sure you crop its tail. And I was like, what? I would never crop a dog's tail. In my mind, I'm like, that's fucking cruel. But that's the dog trainer, dog breeder in him, to have that aesthetic look of the breed, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. So I didn't know he was dropping hints that he knew that the dog was pregnant.
Right.
Because he's like, if you have the dog and you sell the puppies, make sure you crop the tails, basically being like, here, I'm giving you a real gift right now. Yeah. Sell these dogs and make some money.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know, and then we fucking find out, oh fuck, this dog is actually pregnant. And we were living in Owen Sound. So, back to Owen Sound talk, Owen Sound times. The dog ended up giving birth. I remember we were at that girl Tracy's house. It was the first night we'd stayed over at somebody else's house, Hal and I. And I said to Hal, I was like, oh, imagine if she has her puppies tonight, because dogs usually do that. They'll nest and then have their puppies, when nobody's around. And I remember coming back and we're like, oh my gosh, she had her baby. Maddie had made this total cocoon little nest. And we came home and found all those babies in a little cuddle puddle together.
Yeah, love it. She ate one of them.
We thought so, because we all swore, we're like, fuck, there's 5 of these puppies.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
do we still believe that though, or am I tripping out that there was 5 puppies? But 100% I counted 5.
Yeah, she
Then Bill ended up
she
being
ate
4.
one. Yeah, I guess it was ill or whatever. She didn't have enough. They know when they got to eat one. She,
Fuck.
she
Because
ate one.
Maddie knew when she needed nutrients, because I remember that dog used to eat her shit too.
Man, she was wild. She was a good friend. I watched her fight a raccoon once at
Oh, no doubt.
yeah, we were at Turtle's place in Toronto, Turtle's parents' place, and this fucking raccoon just like showed up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden Maddie and this raccoon are fighting, like, but Maddie's up on her back legs like velociraptors, and they're just going crazy. So
She would snarl, hey?
Hal reaches in and grabs Maddie out of there and shoos the raccoon. And then the raccoon shimmies up the eaves trough, the down pipe, up to the roof of the house, and we all look up, and I swear to God, the raccoon poked back over the roof, looked down at us, and went, dipped.
Bye.
Like, thanks,
Bye,
man.
Nora.
It's fucking crazy.
Like,
Yeah, but yeah, that's where the dogs came from. The legendary Jack Russell terrorists, Maddie and the Bean, man. And
so tell me back about, though, like we were just talking about Dead End too, and like reliving those memories. Like that is a fucking trip in of itself, is it not?
yeah, it was wild. And then by the time that movie wrapped up, I ended up being in the movie. I ended up making more money off that movie than Hal did because they had me doing a bunch of art.
Money?
I made all kinds of money. Yeah.
Where was my fucking payout?
I don't know. I don't know what your deal was, but I was getting paid to draw like weird pictures in a hotel room with my left hand, and I was like in the depths of, cocaine addiction. It was strange days. And then by the time they wrapped it up and edited it, and then that's when I ended up having my intervention with my mom, because she seen me on the red carpet at the ROM when they premiered it at TIFF. I
was there. I was pregnant with Ivy. I was like ready to pop.
Right.
I had her in November, and that was in September. I was there. I sat with your mom, actually. I didn't see you though.
I was there. I was the skinny guy.
Okay.
Probably couldn't see me.
I think me and you were hating each other then. I think we weren't on top terms, maybe.
I don't know. I was hating myself. That's for sure. But I phoned Harold and was like, "Hey, you coming to this premiere?" And he was off then in Montreal, and he was with some gypsy girl, and he's like, "I live in a gypsy caravan," and they grow they grow corn, and they wipe their ass with the husks of the corn and feed it to the pigs. And I'm like, "What?
No.
What are you talking about?"
I told you?
He's like, yeah, he's like, Guns N' Roses are getting back together. It's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. I'm Aquarius. I'm like, what are you? He was fucked, right? He was out of his mind. And that
telling me he was on lots of PCP. He had continued.
Yeah, he was in a rabbit hole for sure. Some weird gypsy corn pig rabbit hole in Montreal. And I was like, "Are you gonna come to this premiere?" And he's like, "Nah, Travesty Productions, TP, toilet paper, wipe my ass with that movie. You take it." Yeah. I was like, "Okay, Hollywood, you're too cool, right? You can't be reached." So we went without him. But yeah, that's
you know what's crazy about that movie? I remember when we got on the road to go and shoot that movie, that the production company, and I'm not talking shit about them, and I'm not saying they fucking exploited us, but they might have. They fucking straight up was like, "Here's a grocery list of drugs we want you to score for scenes in the movie." And they were like, "Here's the money, go score the drugs." And we literally scored a fucking grocery list of drugs that they wanted for different scenes in the movie. Like the scenes in those, I know, where you're getting fucking high in that. When I watched that, I'm like, okay, like we're pretty much kids at this point. Maybe not you. You might have been you were older than us. Twitch,
I was like at least 18. I was, like you guys were, right? I think minors. Yeah, but that was real heroin, real drugs.
We were fucking minors. We were like so young, like fresh. Yeah. Well, we weren't fresh. I wouldn't say we were fucking fresh. We were anything but fresh. But like thinking about that, reflecting back on that, it's crazy. Different times, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, just, the more things change, the more they stay a shame, like people are, that's the business. That's show business, baby. They don't give a fuck. But you've been everywhere. So you've done it all. Like you've been homeless, you traveled all over the place. You were in Mexico down there. You were in Spain. You're in England. And now you're set up, in England.
I'm set up. I bought a car, Twitch. I made it. I've arrived finally.
Yes. Do you say boot? Throw it in the boot?
Do I say a boot?
No,
Or
the boot. Isn't that the trunk of the car?
I don't. People try to fucking make me assimilate to the culture.
So then tell me about this holistic punk and this yoga journey. Tell me about that.
So holistic punk, okay, so obviously, you know, we name ourselves, we give ourselves a social media presence, and like holistic punk for me is obviously reminiscence of our punk rock roots, you know what I mean? But then it's this, you know, shift into a different mindset, a different frame of mind, coming from like punk rock street culture, living in the gutter and doing drugs like we've spoke about, you know, and like trying to look at my life and the things that I do in a more holistic manner, right? And when I was in school and I was studying mental health and addictions counseling, I think that was probably the biggest teaching I took from my education, was the understanding of looking at the self holistically in relation to my future practice, right? And I feel like that was my biggest teaching. So, little off story, like I was living in Victoria. Sorry, I was going to say Vancouver. I was living in Victoria, studying mental health and addictions counseling. I lived in a house in poverty, being a single mom, living in this house that was affordable. It was, it was in the fucking hood in a Esquimalt. It was nothing special, but it was affordable and it was a place to land. The house ended up having like toxic molds in it, 2 types of toxic mold. It had stachybotrys, which is black mold, Penicillium aspergillus, and then like both of those are neurotoxins. Okay. I got super sick, Twitch. I almost lost my life. Right. And at the time, one of my friends, Brandy, I don't know if you know her. Do you remember Tammy from back in the day who passed away? She died of a heroin overdose. Her younger sister, Brandy wasn't like street entrenched like us, but she hung out sometimes. She knew us all. They're from the West Coast. Anyways, she's a yoga teacher and, being supportive. I was never into yoga. I was like, okay, Lululemon. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it just wasn't my fucking thing. I couldn't relate to that culture of people doing yoga, but in the back of our minds, we're like, oh, well, we're told yoga's good and it's good for you. It just didn't relate to me. It wasn't relatable. So it wasn't something that I was like top of my list of things to do. But when I was sick with this toxic mold exposure, I really went deep into like, okay, every time I go to the doctors, I go to the hospital, they're like, your body's in crisis mode. They're like, your fucking liver's shutting down, your kidneys are shutting down. Like they think I was septic. Like literally all of every test they were doing was off the charts, right? And they had no body of research around mold toxicity in the body and what that actually means on like the implications for health. So there wasn't a lot of information, right? So I'd go and they're like, Jenine, we don't know what to do for you. We know you're really sick, but we don't know how to cure you. So they were giving me steroids, like high doses of steroids. They were giving me fucking pain meds. They were like, literally, they said to me, they were like, Jenine, we're giving you the amount of steroids that we give to end stage cancer patients to keep them happy at the end of life. Like you are sick, right? So obviously at this point, I'm like, I have to take the healing into my own hands. Like I literally don't have anybody giving me answers. You know what I mean? And because I was so sick and incapacitated, all I had was time to sit and fucking research, right? And I started researching on the connection of like the gut and its connection to health in the body, right? Finding out that mold, being exposed to mold toxicity, can create a thing in the body called leaky gut. And when you have leaky gut, all the toxins that we ingest, alcohol, cigarettes, environmental allergens, mold, whatever it is, all these toxins that we're taking in daily, our gut's the thing that works through it and passes on through other systems in the body, right? So when I realized that mold toxicity essentially creates this environment for leaky gut, which then can cause long-term systemic inflammation in the body, which causes like Alzheimer's, rheumatoid arthritis. I'm not a doctor, by the way, but this is where my research took me. It creates all these hosts of problems in the body. So I had like ringing in my ears, twitch. I had numbness, like numb patches in my body. And for me, it was something definitive that I had a marker now with this ringing in my ear, numb patches in various spots of my body, that I'm like, okay, I know that this is a problem. This is wrong right now. How can I cure it? Right. So understanding leaky gut, looking at how to eradicate certain things from the diet. I didn't smoke. I quit drinking, quit caffeine, stopped eating meat, went completely vegan, no sugar, like literally like eradication diet, completely gave myself time to heal. And in that time, I was also doing yoga in conjunction with this, because I was trying to look at the body in a holistic way. Okay. Sorry, I've gone down the rabbit hole, but this is pertinent to the story. So because I was looking at myself, because I had these definitive markers for my physical health, and I was also working on my self-awareness and looking at myself in a holistic manner, I started understanding different aspects of the self. Like, I knew if my physical health was always lacking. So not only being sick, but also like not working out, not doing this, that, and the other. So when my friend Brandy had offered to teach yoga, I was like, okay, cool. I'll be supportive of you. I'll go to your classes and I'll check it out. So I went to a couple sessions of her yoga classes and I fucking loved it. I was like, I didn't understand it, but I knew there was an element of spirituality to it. There was a lot of like visualizations, and like after, when we'd go into Shavasana, we would do visualizations and meditations. And it was something that resonated with me, and I couldn't explain why. It just felt right. But the thing for me was being in a classroom full of people, when you're doing a practice that's so deep and spiritual and you're working on healing, working with the self, it didn't feel right for me to be in a room full of people. So I went deep in, down the rabbit hole into it, starting to like understand yoga in conjunction with the healing work that I was doing through my eradication diet, working on myself, going to the ocean every day, connecting with nature, and really trying to look at myself in a positive, holistic manner. Okay. I had a thing called kundalini awakening. I don't know if you know what that is. Have you heard of it?
I could like venture to guess it has something to do with the nether regions.
The nether regions?
It
Meaning
sounds like Kundalingus.
No. So Kundalini is the uniting of Shakti and Shiva. It's an energy center at the base of your spine. So if you've ever seen like the snakes that go up around like a cross, it's used in health, like medical, whatever. It's the uniting of those two energies together. Okay. This is like some deep spiritual shit, something I knew nothing about. There are practitioners that practice yoga, like spiritual gurus that practice their whole life to try and activate this kind of energy called Kundalini energy. I had no idea what it was.
And it has nothing to do with your vagina.
It has nothing to do with it, but it might be rooted in that, in the sense that these two, Shakti and Shiva, and the energies lay at the base of your spine. So essentially, Kundalini is activated when you are in perfect alignment, when you align your chakras from your root, which is down there in the nether regions, as you said, and you become in perfect alignment. Okay. That for me, like, people can have spontaneous Kundalini awakenings. I was working through the stages. I was doing a lot of stuff around, like I said, around healing. I was doing a lot of like practicing like shamanistic practices. I was literally full on invested in, not knowing where it was going to take me, Twitch. It was just one of these things that I knew I needed to do it, because I knew that survival was on the line at this point. And like, I've been in situations where I've been close to death. That was probably the most scariest time in my life, when I was exposed to that mold and how sick I was. So long story short, I navigated through this sickness. I realized in that journey that I had been giving my power away to doctors all the years, who I give my power away to them. And I was essentially telling them, you know more than me, heal me. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it was me coming in connection back with my body and realizing that I had the power to heal myself. and ultimately it came from nutrition. It came from nutrition, looking at the body holistically and embodying yoga and doing this healing journey for myself, right? So that's where holistic punk manifested from.
That's amazing. The tools are there, right? If you got to find what works for you and use it. And you've got the determination, never mind, you're driven, right? But you've got the resolve to it's the long game. You have to have a long game, like people want instant gratification, and that's hard to break coming from addiction, because that's what that's all about, is that whole king baby bullshit where I want what I want and I want it right now. But it's all about the long game, and to have the resolve to just stick it out, and that's what you're doing. And that's why you're going to win, because you're not going to give up.
I'd love to take my yoga practice and take it into like rehab centers, take it into jails, if they're willing to allow me into those spaces, and to be able to share that with people. I feel like the spiritual side of yoga is something that's so personal. And I feel like yoga teachers, sometimes they're opening people up to energies that they might not understand. And I feel that sometimes maybe people shouldn't be teaching this practice to people if they haven't had this kind of spiritual understanding or depths of where it can take you to.
Yeah, you want to be, of course, the same should be said for everything. There's a lot of educated idiots that are in positions of power. I mean, that have no business. That's where the lived experience comes in, right? That's why you've got, you're both those snakes, so you can walk into the prison and be like, all right, cell block 4, who's ready for a kundalini awakening? Hey, don't you think Stachybotrys and the Leaky Guts is a good punk band name?
Stachybotrys and the Leaky Guts. It's gonna happen, Joe.
Yeah. Or that could be the Prime Minister of England, like Sir Stachybotrys.
Because it's fucking rainy here and there's so much mold. And it's like, no, I suss that shit out. I am like, I cannot be in an environment where I'm around that, because instantly it will take me to that place.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like there's not enough like research and understanding about that, Joe, because, the pharmaceutical industries, who predominantly control the teachings of what's taught in medical schools, they don't want people to know about what the environmental causes are of all these long-term health implications that are causing like full-on systemic inflammation in the body, that are then resulting in like Alzheimer's, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, all of these things, right? So if you go down that rabbit hole and start to like research the connection between mold and what that means on the body, hopefully I don't die for telling this and like talking about this and being so candid. I sound paranoid now. I'm not a fucking conspiracy theorist. I don't think anybody's going to come and hunt me down for talking about this, but
well, hopefully they can't hear you through those thick walls, but I don't know. People, I think you'll be all right. You got to tell us about Kick It. What's this? You writing a book?
So Kick It, a practical guide to early recovery from the mind of a former addict. I'm not sitting here like claiming perfection. Like, I still drink a glass of wine here and there. I'm on the fucking vapes. I've quit cigarettes after 27 years. And, as this whole conversation piece, we've touched on crack, we've touched on drugs, we've touched on it all, It's not that I've come here to preach or, to be the fucking, the person that is definitive on like addiction research. I just want to tell my story in a practical way. I've always wanted to write a book, and I'm like, Jenine Daubney, nobody gives a fuck about who I am. Nobody cares. So for me to write an autobiography and tell my story, it's irrelevant. People don't care. They're not going to pick it up. So I was always wondering, what's the delivery? How can I deliver the teachings and like the things that I've learned over the years on how to overcome addiction in practical ways? And I started when I was, I relapsed a couple years ago, 2 years ago, coming out of the pandemic, not relapse in a hard way, but like, drinking and maybe doing the odd bump of Coke. And like, obviously that's not healthy. I've been there, done that. And it wasn't serving me anymore. And I started going to AA meetings, NA meetings. And I just kind of got in this frame of mind twitch of like, I need to do something different, and I started writing, because writing's always been that piece that's like, it heals us, it helps us, like getting it out in a creative way, right? And I finally thought, you know what, this is actually the delivery, because now instead of me writing my story, I can write about supports and different things that I know other addicts can put in place, and put my experience intertwined into that and deliver it in a way that's hopefully meaningful and helpful for people. So kick it. Watch out, it's coming. And this piece right now, talking about, it's holding me accountable that I have to finish the book now.
Yes, you said it. Now we're going to manifest it. I want to read that. And your story's not done yet. So when you're down the road, when you write your autobiography, people will be lucky to read that, because you've lived an amazing life and you're a survivor and you are an inspiration. And you're my beautiful friend, Jenine Daubney. I'm so happy to know you, to have the history with you, and to have the future with you. I can't wait to even come for a visit or just to see you again in person. I'd love to get over there and eat some of that shitty British food and go to a shitty British beach. And you know what I mean? The future's unwritten, but you are, yeah, it's going to happen. And you're wonderful. Thanks for coming on here. I love you so much.
I love you so much, Twitch. And if it, shout out to your brother Hal too, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't still be walking, because there was a dark time in my life. That boy breathed life back into my body when I overdosed in the streets of Toronto. I'm so grateful for your family. It's like this intricate web of like a spider web that we're just like interconnected in so many ways. And like, I'm still here because of your family, and I love you so much.
I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that all the way across the pond.
Bye, Canada. I love you. I love you, Joe.
All right, nothing quite like a nice little bit of conversation, yeah? Hey? Nothing quite like a nice little bit of casual conversation, is what I always say, eh? Nothing quite like a bit of casual conversation. It's Australian, sounds Australian. Nothing quite like a bit of casual conversation, eh? God save the Queen, eh, John? Nothing quite like a bit of casual conversation. I like to have a little bit of casual conversation. I like to play yoga. Well, I like to have a little bit of casual conversation. I like to have a little bit of casual conversation. Well, I don't mind if we do have a little bit of casual conversation. I don't mind if we do. I don't fucking know. After that night on the hill, I went to the Canadian Tire and I bought this hammer, and I've had it ever since. I carried it for about a year solid after that night. Paranoid trauma response. It actually came quite in handy when I was dealing in PCP. This little guy saved my life a few times. Yeah, we've been through some shit. And then bring us to today, where my old friend here, he just likes, putting up fences and fixing stuff around the house. But I still have it. So what does that say about me? I'll see you next time on Spinning Yarns. 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 We'll see you next time. We'll see you next time on Spinning Yarns. We'll see you next time on Spinning Yarns. I'll see you next time on Spinning Yarns. I will see you next time on Spinning Yarns. We'll see you next time on Spinning Yarns.
Spinning Yarns is brought to you by Hi-Fi Umbilical Productions. We're 100% DIY with zero tolerance for intolerance. Spinning Yarns is recorded on stolen land in front of a live studio audience. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Gmail, and Linktree at Yarn Spinning. Please like, follow, and share to show your support. We're building this together. Spinning Yarns is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you kids go for podcasts these days. Check out our Patreon if you'd like to help out the show, and you can always find us on the web at our landing site, joeamaro.com. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, reach out. Let's shoot the shit. We're just spinning yarns, connecting with respect and respecting the connections. Peace be with you, and let the peace be known.